So just by adding the view model, you've actually fixed your rotation issue. Here, let me show you. Okay, we're gonna get some scores, and now let's rotate. Ta-da! The word and the score are saved. But adding the view model hasn't resolved all of our problems, and in fact it's actually introduced a few new issues and inefficiencies. The first issue is a pre-existing issue that we had before. The view model does preserve data when the configuration changes, but this data is still lost when an app is shut down by the operating system. As a review, the operating system initiated process death is when you put your app in the background, and then the operating system decides that it needs to terminate your app's process to free up some memory. While this only happens if your device is memory starved, and it probably occurs less often than configuration change issues, it still means that some percentage of your users are going to come back to your application and find it missing data. The proper way to preserve data, even if the app is terminated, usually involves using a combination of unsaved instant state and data persistence, which you're going to learn about later. This handy table in the documentation talks about saving state in different cases, and I've linked this and other information in the notes. But for our Guess It app, I'm going to say that because of the style of the app, which is a quick game played with a friend in real time, you're unlikely to ever put that app in the background for a long time and then expect to come back and have the game in the same state. So I'm going to say for this app, it's alright if we don't preserve state in the case that the operating system shuts down your app. The second issue is a new one that you've introduced. You've got code all over the place saying that you want to update the UI. The only reason that this code here makes sense is because we know that when we call something like ViewModel.onSkip, that's actually changing the score or word. Now if I look at the code for onSkip, and I'm also looking at the code for onCorrect here, both of these called new word. And if new word and update score text and update word text were all in the same class, I could just have new word call those methods. But because we've split up the functionality, we've created this situation where there's an implied but unenforced relationship between how these methods in the view model are implemented and what data they change, and then what must be called in the fragment to update the UI. I could easily forget to call update score text or update word text in one of these situations. Preferably, we just like to be able to call these methods in the view model, and not worry about remembering to call these methods to update the view in the fragment. The final issue is what to do about this pesky call to game finished. We've commented it out for now, but that's not really a solution. Both of these issues boil down to the fact that there's no way to communicate back to the fragment from the view model. And since I've told you that you should not have references to the fragment in your view model, this is seeming like a pretty impossible situation to solve.